Hello. So today I was asked about changing a player for Victoria for the mid line. So I'm just gonna do a small overview on how she works, what stones are ideal to her, and what kind of line she works with the best. So first thing, this isn't actually my Victoria, it's a friend's Victoria. So I'm going to be a little bit more restricted on a few of the functions, and then I'm going to go back to the player book for a few things. The only thing that might be limited is going to be showing you her story links. So the first thing, this is what a level 60 Victoria Sub-Zero is going to look like. He plus 8'd her. She's pretty decent. If you put her in the right correct slot, this is the kind of thing you're going to get. So you see 116% critical. This is something very important when you look at her skill, as one is only going to work on crit. So when you look at the skills, she has 4 skills. The very first one is going to be a steal that is going to increase reflex by 60% and decrease inflicted damage by 70%, who's a very good skill. Then again, I would say the other passives are also very interesting. So it depends what kind of build you're running. If you find you're lacking reflex or that she dies too often, it's not that bad to invest and it's only half a bar. So it's not bad. Start throwing points at it at the end. And if you prefer the other skills, it's really up to you where you're going to take points from. The second skill is decrease incoming damage by 30%, increase crit rate by 40, and attack power by 30. So this is extremely important as a skill for her, especially when I'm going to look at her following skills. So I would say this is one of the first ones you're going to want to max out. The decrease inflict incoming damage is insanely great. The crit rate is actually pretty good because of her passives, and attack power can never hurt. Now the reason why I keep pointing out her crit rate is this skill. I'm just gonna show the max version. So increase max height by 10%, attack power by 10% within position for 10 minutes with a critical hit. And it can go up to 5 times. So it's pretty nice. It's really the attack power we're gonna be looking at. And the max height is something that has a great synergy if you have a Metatron on the line, because she's gonna be healing that life back. So as a lot of you have noticed, if you've taken damage and we increase your max life, your life doesn't go up. It just increases the cap. So if you do that and you throw a Metatron, it has a great synergy. And then the reason why everyone uses her, and this is extremely important in PvP more than in PvE, it's increased reflex within position at 30%. So in my eyes, if I were to say in order of skills what you'd want, depending on whether you're doing a reflex line or not, I would say either start between the second or the fourth passive, as they're both great. Work your way up to the third and then go to the active. If you were to not be so interested in the third passive, as you maybe not have a Metatron or hype and attack power are not interesting to you, you would be doing a 5-5-3-5 build. Basically, that's the only other option. So stone-wise, I agree with what he did, except for this one right here. I'm guessing he didn't have enough dark ones. I would say put the same dark one here too. That's the only difference in build I would throw. So let's look at the stones. So the very first one is going to be an Andor Legendary. I keep saying legendary, they're unique stones. So it's increased attack power for penetration and increased critical rate. Again, that's because of her skill. You just want to be sure that it functions. Sometimes you don't have the crit to throw it on. So it's just going to allow her to just penetrate all the way up there. In my eyes, that's basically the best unique stone you could throw on her. There are a few different builds, but this is one of the most robust. The second thing is you're going to want a dribble stone, because the idea is she steals the ball and then she tries to penetrate. If you don't want to throw that, who's again really up to you, you could replace this by a Nando reflex. It's also a very viable thing because you're trying to throw some reflex in there. So throwing in some reflex could also be a solution. The criticals here, at least one of them, I would say you basically have two builds for her. It's this build, who's basically a survival multi-usage build, because she can steal, she can penetrate, and she's going to heal on both levels. This really takes advantage of the fact that she already has a damage reduce. But in case you don't want to run this and you want to run the good old reflex build, you could do reflex stone here, Andor reflex, lighter Andor reflex. The dark crit damage rate, you can just keep that. And legendary stone wise, this is still pretty decent. So I would say reflex, crit damage. So those are really the two main builds. Again, forget that this is a cold one. Imagine it's a dark one. I'm sure that's what they wanted to do. But since it's rare, it's a bit harder to get, and sometimes you just don't own it. So for the links, there's not really anything mainly notable. These links are with unused players. They're gonna activate in PvE. So I know what the other free players are on both. I can actually show them to you. It's 3 stars, 4 stars, nothing great. If you're running a rainbow team, this link is pretty nice. She has an affection lid with K. And this is an Andor passer. I think it's Nari. I keep forgetting her name. I don't use her. She has a chain with that. So that's also pretty nice. But I would just say the K chain is the nicest one of her chains. So I'm going to show a little demonstration of what she can do. I was ironically doing the minion match, so I don't think it's going to be the greatest thing, but I'm just going to show how it affects the reflex on my line. So for example, this is my Metatron. I'm just going to move her one back so we can see the stats. So this is my Metatron, 1500 reflex, and right now we're about to see the difference that happens when you just throw in a Victoria. So as you see, the reflex went up around 500, who's already pretty nice. This is because she already has some reflex. But the thing is, if you're running a Metatron, she's also going to be lowering the reflex on the other side. And that has actually been buffed twice by the nerfs of every other aspect of her line skill. So now it's going to be decreasing their attack power and reflex by 30%. So combining both of them works very well. I'm just trying to show a bit of gameplay with that player, so I'm not going to be running the most optimal way of playing. So again, she's very decent. This is not a reflex build, so that's why it's at 1000. And already, as you can see, her critical rate is lowering. So if you have any crit lowering lines, that's why he threw that extra stone. So we're just going to use her active, and it didn't work. But that's completely fine. We just steal. Yeah, these minions are surprisingly strong for being minions, I would say. So I hope that gave you an overview again. She's not overpowered in my line because it's not really based on the fact of having line buffs. But when you're running a reflex line, she's going to be working very well. So again, this was done as someone was talking to me about her, and they were saying they wanted to replace in their midline a Kevin with her. So if you were wanting to do that and your other player for some reason was a bad player, was an Urkel, as he's having that right now, I'm not saying that Hercules is bad. I'm just saying that unless you have a lot of life managers and you're not doing PvP because of the Metatron buff, he's actually a pretty decent player. I'm not going to be doing a spotlight on him, but he does have a bunch of decent skills. So if you were to replace him, at least if you were to replace him for PvP, some of the very viable options are going to be going into Wormwind and throwing out Princess Marianne. By the way, this is her old skin. I just don't like the new one. I'm going to stay with that whatever happens. I haven't eat her, but that's not really that important. if you were not to run her, I would say you could just look at who are nice line buffers. You're gonna want to look for something that's gonna be buffing reflex. Maybe throw a bit of life at it. Um, I don't remember. I had another idea of what you could throw. I just for some reason I just can't remember it. So basically that's it. I would just change it for some sort of reflexing. Oh yeah, now I remember. The other player you could replace it is Linnea, as she would be using her siege logic skill that would increase attack power, action speed, and reflex, allowing Victoria to proc her 10-minute active more often. So if you were to place, those are the other two players you'd be running, whatever one you have, whatever one you prefer. Again, I only pointed out season 1 players like this, they're scoutable. So I hope this has helped, and good luck to you all.